Hi everyone, and welcome back to my English language channel. As we get closer to exam season, I wanted to share with you all another quick video filled with exam tips, and this time it is 4 things not to do in an English language exam. So let's get started. So, tip number 1, don't spend too long annotating the text. This tip applies for any question where you are given a source booklet, whether it has sources you've seen before or brand new material you're seeing for the first time in the exam. A lot of you may have spent a lot of lesson time going through texts, either individually or with your teacher, annotating and highlighting key sections in great detail, but in an exam you're limited by the amount of time you have. Some exams may be up to 2.5 hours long, so students think, great, I've got loads of time. But that time can go so quickly, and it's amazing the amount of students after mock or even their real exams who come out and say they ran out of time. So read the question and the source carefully, perhaps highlight bits as you go and make notes for yourself. When I'm making notes in a text just for myself, I often speed it up by writing just a couple of letters that I know what they mean, such as LFL instead of low frequency Lexis, but don't over annotate. Normally, I say 10 to 15 minutes reading and annotating the text before starting to write an answer is about right for most students. Now, number 2. Don't write an overly lengthy introduction. Similar to tip 1, this is all about using the exam time as well as you can, and most importantly, getting into your main analysis points quickly so you can pick up those marks. Sometimes I see students essentially rewrite the question at the start of their answers. For example, writing something like, today I'll be comparing how source A and source B present ideas about, and then whatever it is you've been asked. But this is such a waste of time and adds nothing to your answer. In a previous video, I've discussed starting your answer, if it's an unseen text, with a map structure, and some students have become very good at doing this within 3 to 4 sentences, whereas others may take over a page to say basically the same thing. If you know that you're someone who is likely to spend too long on an introduction, it can help to learn a sentence structure that you plan to use in the exam, just for the first 2 to 4 lines, so you don't have to think of how to start and you can get writing as quickly as possible. If you aren't sure of a good sentence structure to use, ask your teacher for exemplar answers, look back at mocks where you've done particularly well, or have a look at my video here where I write an introduction for a comparison question. Moving on to tip number 3, don't explain what subject terms mean. This is something I've mentioned in a previous video, but I feel it's important to go back to, as again, it's a big time waster in exams. An example of this might be a student mentioning a particular sentence type, then writing something like, the writer has used an imperative sentence here. An imperative sentence is when a writer gives a command. Remember, the person reading your answer is a specialist in this subject and therefore won't need things like this explaining to them. It also completely loses the flow of your answer and point and doesn't sound particularly academic. So as tempting as it can be to try and show off what you know, use the terms but don't waste words defining them. My final tip number 4, applies to exam questions where you are looking at more than one text, and that is don't forget to compare text throughout your answer. This is such an important one, particularly if the exam question itself has words like compare or explore the similarities and differences in it, like many of them do, as you're being marked directly on how well you've discussed the text in relation to one another. Sometimes I see students write all about the first text, then all about the second text, but this is not answering the question correctly. You may write a whole paragraph on one text, but then as you move on to write about the second text, be sure to write at least one sentence linking them or commenting on how language has been used for a similar or different purpose. Try to do this at least 3 to 4 times in your essay. So those are my top tips of what not to do in an exam. Thank you for watching and good luck with any exams you may have coming up.